Hello everybody and welcome back to the Fortress of Solitude. Today we're going to be talking about a Green Lantern issue 21 by Jeremy Adams, Jack Herbert and Romulo Fajardo Jr. Kyle Rayner's mission to the Source World takes a turn as Starbreaker and Sorrow confront the heroes, demanding the Source Energy Orb him and his team retrieved from the Promethean Temple. While Kyle and Superboy take on Starbreaker, Odyssey is met by Sorrow, who demands the orb, but before he can claim it, Odyssey teleports away. Starbreaker soon proves too much for Kyle and Superboy as the villain grows in size, wanting to show the heroes why they call him the Starbreaker. As I said back when Starbreaker was reintroduced into this book, I love the Lanterns have an actual bona fide caped supervillain to deal with again. And while it's still part of the story, they just aren't fighting another cool Lantern again. It's a proper, space vampire. Starbreaker begins crushing the heroes in his hands, despite Kyle's constructs trying to pry them out. Sorrow soon senses something familiar, telling Starbreaker to watch out, but it's too late as Hal arrives, alongside some very angry gorilla constructs which attack Starbreaker, freeing Superboy and Kyle from his grip. So while the big superhero fight happens, we actually get some really cool time with Sorrow, who I feel has been criminally underutilized since his creation, but also that kind of fits with the story. He's this guy who's often overlooked and kind of like stepped on a little bit, and maybe it's also getting a little bit meta with characters who start out as love interest for a main character, in this case Carol Farris. I think of like a character like over in Spider-Man, you got Paul, and how him just appearing one day and just being in the book made him garner so much hate. That was before he did anything. People just hated him just because he was dating one of the main characters. And that's kind of the same thing with Sorrow, where people didn't particularly like him because he was dating Carol. And I like that that's kind of been woven into the story, where he's, become this kind of misunderstood guy who, just kind of got the raw end of the deal, let's be honest. And he's kind of exacting his revenge in probably not a very healthy or non-toxic way. Sorrow continues to try and find Odyssey, who didn't actually teleport away before. She actually used a cloaking device from her special utility belt, and she's, kind of hidden herself in space, but Sorrow was able to find her using his smoke to infect Odyssey's mind, making her feel despair and sadness, causing her to reveal her position. Sorrow assures her that the sadness she feels will fade soon, along with every other emotion once they have finished their power battery. With Sorrow retrieving the orb from Odyssey, Starbreaker frees himself from the Lantern's constructs and flees in a puff of smoke with Sorrow. So now the Lanterns finally know that Sorrow is working with someone they don't want to have to tangle with. Superboy retrieves Odyssey, who still feels the effects of Sorrow's power, and the team decides it's time they bring in some other heavy hitters. Heading back to Oa, Hal briefs the Guardians and the other Lanterns on Starbreaker and Sorrow working together. Luckily, the group might have a solution thanks to Kelly, the Teen Lantern, who has a theoretical way to stabilize the emotional spectrum that's been fractured. They will rebuild all of the power batteries destroyed by the Durlans, since they should be able to handle the energies that are now free out in the galaxy and kind of rein them in a little bit. The other Lanterns are rightfully shocked at this, since the spectrum is messy and volatile, but it's the only real plan they have to stop Starbreaker and Sorrow. Okay, so I really like the reframing of get all of the puzzle pieces, all the MacGuffin's puzzle story here, since I was wondering if the Lanterns were just going to go after all the pieces that Sorrow needed. Like I said in the last issue, I like that we had that sort of Raiders of the Lost Ark sort of thing, but I didn't want that to be every single issue as they, try and beat Sorrow to the punch. And I like that this is Adams kind of realizing that and kind of reframing it in that, okay, we have to make our own power battery, so we need to go and, recruit these other Lantern Corps. It makes me think this is going to lead to a big battle with the other Lantern spectrums all joining in and, being reborn and helping defeat Starbreaker and his own corps. To start the rebuild effort, the Lanterns need some nth metal, a lot of it. And for that, Kyle and his team need to head to Reach territory in order to find a catch of the precious material. Hal also knows that they need more Source Wall energy, and he might know where to get some, but it's not going to be something anybody likes. As the Lanterns put their plan in motion, Superboy gets a neat little moment with Odyssey, trying to comfort her after her interaction with Sorrow. While these two were set up as kind of romantic elements in the story to begin with, I like that Adams has Superboy relate to what Odyssey is going through, where, she's on the run from something, she doesn't really have a place to be, she's a woman out of time, quite literally, she feels out of place, and she's trying to make her own way in her own name, something that Connor can very much relate to. That was literally the last solo series he had, where he left Earth, went out into the cosmos to try and become his own person, and not just be, he's a younger version of Superman, or he's, the brother of John Kent, stuff like that. that. Of course, Odyssey has her walls up and just refuses to acknowledge that Connor is right about her right now, wanting to just get on with the job at hand as Kyle returns to tell them they have a new mission and it is to rebuild the power batteries. Back above Earth, Hal returns to the Watchtower to meet with Mr. Terrific about the spectrum energies. Hal sees Carol, but she can't stop and talk since she's busy with some League business, racing off to help the team as in Coast City, Mind Bomber is robbing a bank, using his powers to levitate cars into the air and hold people hostage in them. Star Sapphire arrives to help the people and Hal joins her, having followed her from the station. Hal wants to catch Carol up on what's going on, but she's busy dealing with Mind Bomber, capturing the villain in a cage. Things take a turn when the villain suddenly stops ranting and raving, his mind suddenly quieting for some reason. The Lanterns soon realize what it is, as it's the work of Hector Hammond, who along with Director Bones has arrived on behalf of the D.E.O. Oh man, I can't believe this is actually happening, because I love Director Bones, I love the D.E.O. and what they were doing with them in Dawn of DC, and it's been a long time since we've seen these characters, and Adams hasn't touched the classic Green Lantern villains as of yet. Like, he's been playing pretty fast and loose with more, the cosmic side, United Planets, Derlins, all that sort of stuff. So for him to bring in Hector Hammond, a very classic Lantern villain, is so good, and in a really interesting way too. Bones is quick to pull rank on the Lanterns, telling them that the D.E.O. and him are in charge now, and Hector is there as their representative. The heroes don't believe Hector has changed, but the former villain says that he just wants to make amends for what he did in the past. After capturing Mind Bomber and putting him on a chopper, Bones and Hector leave, vowing to see the heroes again real soon. Hal knows that something is very wrong with this, and Carol agrees, wanting Hal to meet her friend who actually might be able to help them. Back in deep space, Kyle and the Lanterns head for the Reach Outpost Omega, an abandoned mining facility that was digging for nth metal. The Lanterns are there and are kind of acting on finders keepers rules, knowing that it's abandoned, so they know that there's some nth metal in there, so if they go in and get it, they can keep it and use it to build the power batteries. It's also at this point, it's fairly obvious that Kyle is a big Harrison Ford fan, being that, last issue we had him pretend to be Indiana Jones with the hat and whip, the minecart, and then this issue, he gets Han Solo's DL-44 heavy blaster, making a construct of it as they head into the facility. This whole place actually feels kind of like a Star Wars place. Even the doors of the mining facility are like the blast doors on the Death Star that kind of like open from the middle and outwards. The team get into the base thanks to Odyssey, whose trusty utility belt again picks the lock for them. It's here that Adams kind of drops like a really kind of crucial and interesting bit of lore about Odyssey, as she talks about how she stole a flower from the Phantom Zone for Mongol, that being a reference to the Black Mercy. So like, she is indirectly responsible for the man who has everything, Alan Moore's Superman story, where he puts the Black Mercy on Superman and he sees himself back on Krypton and whatnot. It's such a wild, offhanded comment, and it really lends to the mystery of who the hell Odyssey is, if like her history is like that far reaching. As the team move back into the dark base, they find a man has been chained up inside, asking the heroes to help him. Back in the D.E.O. bunker, Mind Bomber is confronted by Hector Hammond, who gets into his mind and tells him that he has something in his mind, something he wants, since Hector has lost something and he's been trying to get it back, one mind at a time. He stabs Mind Bomber in the head with a scalpel, lamenting how he wishes to be Hector Hammond again, the true Hector Hammond, that is. I'm honestly surprised we are jumping right into evil Hector Hammond again, since when he first turned up, I assumed we'd get, the story where he's somewhat good, ends up getting embroiled in the Spectrum Wars, helps out the Lanterns and stuff like that, and maybe like through some sort of thing, Orange Light or, something infects him and he ends up becoming the classic Hector again. I didn't think we'd be getting him, turning up and then in the same issue turning evil again. That feels really rather quite rushed to get to that evil Hector Hammond again. Elsewhere, Hal and Carol have met up with Dove of Hawk and Dove fame. She's the friend that Carol mentioned who can help them. Hal during this part is oddly standoffish with Dove. I can't remember if they have any sort of history together, but he's kind of like a little bit of like hero elitist here. It's like, oh, why have we got Dove here? Like, what is she gonna do? Like, that's how he really feels. And I get like he's kind of like pressed for time and everything, but like the way he acts here is kind of a dick. As Dove is sent on her mission by the Lanterns, Carol demands to know what's going on with Hal, and he tells her all about Sorrow and Starbreaker and how to combat them by remaking the power batteries for the other cores. Hal really wants Carol to come with him to help stop Sorrow, since that's some unfinished business they have. Maybe she'll be able to get through to Nathan and help him see reason. Carol still wants to think about it, since she's only just now getting her powers under control and helping people, wanting more than just to be Green Lantern Lantern's girlfriend. This is Adams really saying what I've kind of been loving about Carol's storyline. It's making her more than just Hal's girlfriend or a damsel in distress. It's giving her her own agency away from him and is doing her own thing without him, constantly being there ready to save her. There's some great parallels here between Hal and Nathan as well when it comes to trying to get Carol to do something she doesn't really want to do. Nathan, proposed to her, they got engaged. It was just something that Carol didn't particularly want, but like she kind of went along with it because she kind of felt like she had to. And now like Carol is experiencing that with Hal, but now she's had that experience with absolute power and getting her star Sapphire back, that she's, kind of standing up for herself and being her own person. It also feels like it's building up to something with these two characters where it looks like maybe they were getting together, but maybe that's probably going to end. It's going to come back to what Batman did last issue, where he knows that something is wrong with these two people and it's going to end badly between them. Dove Mimol infiltrates the D.E.O facility Mind Bomb was taken to, easily getting past the guards as she stumbles into Hector's lab, finding him having cut open Mind Bomber's brain and has taken parts of it for himself, making him feel his old powers and mind returning to him again. Green Lantern issue 21 refocused the Lantern's overall mission to stop Sorrow and Starbreaker, bringing back some long-time Lantern villains we haven't seen in a long while. I really liked what Adams is doing, especially with Star Sapphire and her journey to find herself as a hero without Hal constantly being there and, hand-holding her. It's been quite rewarding to see her develop, especially over the last few issues, and it looks like to be heading in a more even interesting direction now that she's fully involved in the Fractured Spectrum plot. I'm going to give this issue an 8.5 out of 10.